just reach up with both hands. You have to come around to the left side of the body. That's why I have it facing this way. You can't go around to the right side of the body if you do it with somebody else. It won't work. And the reason is because this beam coming out of here, it has a positive charge, and this one has a negative charge. And you got to use your hands, and your left hand has a negative charge, and your right hand has a positive charge. And so, when you couple over the top of these, the negative hand couples with the positive, and the positive couples with the negative, and it works. It will not work if you try it the other way around.
And relax,
you just
we
grab
you
those things.
stop dancing
And,
by now.
You grab
We'll be
this
stopping
one and this one.
the dance
with
by
your
now.
attention,
Let's
you
do
tell the body, this other person or yourself, to go into a beam. But what happens is, even though you see this big fuzzy thing and you grab it, and you tell it to go into a beam, it will, just like that, instantly. But the beam will usually only be about this long. Maybe this one will be an inch, and this is a half an inch or something. It'll be really short. When it condenses down into the beam, there's not much there. And and you can tell by how long they are, how much power the pineal chakra is putting out. And so you're holding them just like handlebars, like you're holding on the handlebars of a motorcycle or something. You're holding them here, and you tell them to go into a beam, and they will be short little things where you can sense or feel which one is stronger and which one is weaker. You go to the weaker of the two, and you tell just that one to put out more energy and get longer. When you're talking to another body, you can use words, the body will hear you, but you can talk inside of your head, the body will hear you just as well, maybe even better. And so you can just tell it to put out more energy, and it will do what you say, but it'll usually go like this, a little tiny bit more, because the body hasn't done this in a long time, and to it's putting out a lot more energy. But you have to say, no, more. You just keep going, and the body sometimes kind of freaks out over this. The person itself is kind of usually going through something sometimes. But all you're going to do, you're not going to pull it all the way out. You're going to just make it as wide as your palm. You just want it to do a lot more energy than what it's been doing. And so you just keep telling it, no, more and more and more and more, until that beam starts to extend out from the palm, and then you just stop. And when it does, then you switch to the more powerful one, and you tell it to do it. And usually, you might have to tell it 10 times to keep going more and more and more. And you get it out to approximately this long in both hands, and then that's all you got to do. Doesn't have to be perfect or super precise or anything else like that. You just get it approximately out about the width of your hand. And then you drop your hands and you put your chakra points directly over those points, right over the top of those points. So if you're doing it on your own hand, your left hand goes on the front and your right hand goes on the back. Now you can do this without your hands when you're doing it to yourself. You can just do it sitting and do all of it without it. You're communicating with your own body. It's very clear. But some people really need to feel, and they need to use their hands. So you put your hands over the top of your chakra, over that chakra, etc. Bam. But then the next thing you do, and this is hard to explain, hopefully you can pick this up, you close your eyes. You can see inside the body with your eyes closed. If you open them up, you see the surface or what's around it, but you can't see inside the body. And if you close your eyes, and with your intention, you look to see the pineal chakra. If you do, it's usually, for most people, it shows up as red, and some people it shows up as black. For you, it might be turquoise, who knows, but it's majority of people, it's usually red or black. You really do have two different levels of where you can see from. Once you see that, the next thing is to look to forget about all these other beams. You're only looking at this one now. You look to see these two little beams that are wiggling around there. And so you see the chakra point, and you see these little beams going like this. And now with your holding your hands over that, with your intention, you get those beams to connect to that. And they don't want to do it. You've got to keep working with them until and a lot of times they'll connect, and they'll do it for like 2 seconds and go, they'll break apart, so going away. So you just keep doing it until you get them to connect, and then you've got to hold it there for, it depends on the person, but at least a minute, and maybe even 2 minutes, until you can see that they're not going to break apart. And then when you feel that they're not going to break apart, and you've got them there, then with your intention, you pull the beams out from the palms, you pull them out, and they will follow right behind your hands as you go, and go beyond the sphere, because once they get to where the sphere is, they will stop. And so you go out this far out, say, you can go past it a few inches. Won't matter, wouldn't matter if you went that far out. Just have to get out farther than 1 hand length above, away from this. You pull them out, they'll come out. There's no sphere here now. There's just these 2 beams sitting there. And when you get them out, the next thing you do is you shift your attention to the very ends of these things, and they're pulsing, they're throbbing. So once you pull them out and you feel you've got to feel this pulsing, and for me, I feel it in the palms. Well, what it is they're pulsing like a ping pong match. Pulse, 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 back and forth. You don't want that. With your intention, you've got to get them to pulse the same. And so what happens is you're putting your attention in there to pulse the same, and you might go for 30 seconds, nothing happens, and then it goes through a moment of chaos. And the pulsing, which was going pulse, 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 and then it goes pulse, 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 pulse. It kind of goes crazy for a moment, and then pulse, pulse. They're pulsing the same. As soon as they are, you count the pulses. 1, 2, 3, 4. And the mind say you wait until you get 20 pulses. I don't know if it's because of their 2013 systems and all that other stuff, but they say 20 pulses will stabilize. I go to like 25. Make sure. But you have to do at least 20 pulses, and when you feel 20 pulses or more on there, you can drop your hands, and this beam will be connected in here, and it'll just stay there. And then you go around to the back of the person next to get to the side beams, because that's number 2. And you get to these beams on the side. Now, where it is, again, is not the temples, but if you go right to where your ear comes to the
I was thinking about ending the video, but
it's just a little higher and maybe just a little
trying to push
in front. And so you go behind the person and you repeat what you just said.
There you go, that's what's up.
If they're off center, you just pull them back with your intention, get them where they are. Feel which is weaker, get that weaker one, talk to the body, get it to come out to there, do the other one out to there. Put your hands on the palms on the person's head or on your own hand if you're doing it, and look inside and see the pine. And you can see inside your own head looking with your eyes closed. and you'll see the pineal chakra, you see the little beams, you got to get them to connect. Once they're connected, then you pull the beams down on either side. You do the pulsing thing again. They'll be going back and forth. You've got to stop that with your intention. Get it to pulse the same. Count 20 or more, and then you can drop that one. Then you come to your third eye, this beam, this level one running across here, and you do exactly the same thing, and then this one will happen automatically. And then you should not have to do this one. If you have to do this one, it's a little awkward in the sense that you have to do this at the perineum. There's no other way. It's a long ways in, but to reach up through the tube is the only way you can get to this point because it's in the middle of your throat. And but it's not likely that you'll even see anybody in your lifetime that has to do that. But just so you know, you can't reach this point from here. You have to reach it all the way from the breathing tube at the perineum. Once these are out and running, they will what happens in actual practice when you do it to someone else is a lot of times they'll run for about 10 or 15 minutes and collapse. And you have to do it all over again. Usually, the second time will hold. And at which point it will go for quite a while. I don't really know a long time. But really, this system, to get these out, you only have to do it about 2 weeks, every day for about 2 weeks, and it's permanent. It won't go away after that. But it doesn't do a lot of function, even though it's out there and running. It's very much like the Merkaba field. The Merkaba field doesn't do much until everything is lined up at once. I used to actually find people in the audience that had really bad migraine headaches, and I would work on them, because when you do this, the migraine goes away. If you have migraines all the time, you're in luck. Because if you do this and establish these things, you're more than likely you're going to find that your migraines stop, unless it's caused by a physiological thing, something like a tumor or something. But if it has any emotional base in it at all, it's just going to go away. They just stop, as long as you keep the beams out. Oh, Brodikov in Russia? Oscar.
In one of your books, like, that is psychic children in Russia.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I know what he's doing in his work. He takes blind children and teaches them to see. He takes people who are totally blind and teaches them how to read, watch television, and drive cars. And it's hard to believe, but it's true. and I've been involved with people that are totally blind. I mentioned Marianne Shinfield a long time ago. Marianne Shinfield was completely blind. She's in her 50s, but you would never know she was blind by interacting with her, because she seems totally normal. But she actually has no eyes at all, and she can see. NASA's taken her now. I'll probably never see her again. They didn't believe her. They asked her, "Where are you?" And she said, "Well, I'm actually floating around the solar system most of the time." And I'm sure they internally kind of laughed at her. And then they said, "Well, if you're really floating around the thing, then we want you to go to a certain satellite up there and read the serial number off of it." And she did. And that caught their attention. And so they use her as eyes to go out and see, because she'd go to Mars or anywhere and just go right down to something and look at it and tell them what they see. And she's very good. And I've been with her. I spent 3 or 4 months with her, and got to do what she got to do, and it was fun. And I learned a lot from her. But more recently, I was with the Navajo, and one of the shamans there, and I took a group into Antelope Canyon, which is on Navajo land. You have to get their permission, and so he took us there, and he is also a shaman. And we were there with his 2 aunts, I think they were, these 2 women who were a little older than him, and so he led us through the canyon, and gets to the other side, and tells us all these stories and things. He comes in and he sings peyote songs to us, and he takes us outside on the other end, and there's a natural-looking snake. It was not carved. It points to the entryway to this place. And he's showing everything, where the snake is, and the eyes, and all the stuff like that, and all the groups. And one of the aunts come over, she's got her arm around me like this, and she leans over and says, "Isn't it amazing?" And I said, "Why? What's amazing?" And she says, "Oh, well, our nephew is blind. He can't see anything, but you can't tell." And so I didn't know that about him. It was funny going back after she just told me that, and he's driving a pickup truck. And I'm in the back of his pickup truck, and I got a blind guy driving over the road there. Life is weird. But boy, can he see internally. When we do shamanistic work, he is the most visual person I've ever seen inside. He can appear to me better than anybody I've ever seen. But in my conversation with a lot of these second kids, they're pulling the energy in through the fourth, fifth lumbar, and they know it. Coming in at 90 degrees, up straight up the spine.